It's a beautiful day for some DSA, and welcome back to the Cozy Club, my friends. We've got a jam-packed week full of videos, streams, and content, so I'm excited you're here, and this is going to kick off the week. Now, we've got something to talk about that I've been wanting to talk about for a while, and that is duos and trios in DSA. Now, let me tell you this. Pretty much every meta team is going to be a hybrid of some sort. You got full Frozen and full Oceanics, and they do very well. However, at the end of the day, they're going to lose to hybrid teams. Now, hybrid teams can be made of so many different characters, but there's usually 3 to 2 core characters in these teams that make them function the way they're supposed to, right? So today we're going to talk about the best duos and trios in DSA and what makes them great and what makes their engine tick, so that you can use different plug and play characters to go with them. Now, later this week, we'll be also talking about the best plug and plays in Disney Sorcerer's Arena, so stick tuned for that and subscribe if you want to see that one. But today, we're going to be focusing on those duo and trios. Look, I understand every single person has a different roster of some kind, right? So these are going to be the main characters that you want to plug in, and then look at your roster and see who you can add to add value to the duo or trio. You're going to have the main mechanic working, and then bring in some extra fun twist and make it your own so that you can have the most fun and be competitive in Disney Sorcerer's Arena. I have so many different videos that I want to bring to the Cozy Club, but until I'm a full-time content creator, I have to hand select which ones to choose and bring to you guys. Now, soon I want to get to some shorter videos that just talk about character showcases or quick teams that I can show you guys, just to get them out a little bit quicker and not have so much of an editing process behind these videos. We're going to be rolling that out here pretty soon. But in the meantime, let's jump in to today's video, starting with the first trio that we're going to talk about, and that is Scrooge, Gizmo, and Hero. Now, I noticed I never made a tech in-depth guide, and yes, that's going to be in the works, but for you guys that want to use tech, listen up, because these two ducks and Hero, absolutely ridiculous. They are the meta right now. This is probably the second, if not the best trio out there in DSA. Yes, the Frozen trio is amazing. We'll get to them next. They're probably the next best trio after them. Oceanics are great. They kind of form all together. Now, let's talk about what makes these two ducks quack. Yes, Darkwing Duck is not in here. His main problem that I can't put him in the trio for, and if you have him, feel free to put him in the trio in place of Scrooge. But the main reason is he just doesn't do enough damage. Yes, he's got some purges and some nice things against villains, but overall, he's great at stalling and purging and things like that. But outside, he's just not going to be a main staple of the trio. Now, looking at the trio, this is going to kind of be like the Frozen trio. And why I say that is, in the Frozen trio, what you want to do is build up Elsa. Again, we'll get to that. And in this trio, what it's all about is to get Scrooge to get that money dive, get that money, get that paper. And by paper, I mean deaths on the enemy team. Now, he is such a nuke, such an assassin, and let's talk about why these two other heroes complement Scrooge so well, and then also what the other ones do well in the trio. Now, first of all, Scrooge, we've talked about it. He's all about getting those helpful effects, stacking them up, then money diving and delivering the big hits. Check out some of these crazy hits right here as I'm talking now. You can just see the crazy amount of damage that he's popping up. I've seen 28Ks, I've seen 30Ks. It's ridiculous how high this can go. So Scrooge is here for the damage, and yes, he does give some buffs, but Gizmo is what I want to talk about. Now, I want to talk about Gizmo even more in depth because I felt like I haven't even given him enough attention, because Oceanics came out right after that. You guys know I was hot on the Oceanics. Gizmo is an absolute unit. Probably, if not the best tank in the game. We'll be doing a best tank guide here coming up soon. But because of his speed, his utility, and his kit, he is so dang hard to take out, and he does so much for a team no matter who he is with. That is why you can plug and play just about any hero with these three guys and make and produce results. Now, first of all, Gizmo on his basic is going to be purging helpful effects per tech teammate. So with Hero, he's going to be purging the taunts and the helpful effects a lot more often. But it's really his taunt that is crazy. He's going to be gaining a big shield on top of the shield that Hero gives him. He's also going to be extending all of Scrooge McDuck's helpful effects by 1. Now, this is what makes the trio click. So if you have Bubbles giving the ticket over to Scrooge, everything goes up by 1 or 2 numbers, and then all of a sudden, you're getting massive amounts of buffs on Scrooge McDuck, allowing him to do the massive damage, potentially taking out 1 to 3 characters. It's ridiculous. Now, the other reason why I like Gizmo is it gives you options. Now, it depends on what's going on. You always have to adjust what you're doing in battle to what the enemy is doing. But why I like Gizmo is at the very beginning of your turn, if you're taking a lot of damage and you need that taunt, yes, you can go ahead and pop one of the fastest taunts in the game. It's going to happen very early. He should be going among the first 3 characters every single time, so you can put the taunt up. But I mainly suggest waiting to use that taunt with Gizmo. Usually you want to get taunts out as fast as possible, but with Gizmo, he gives magic, or like we've talked about, a cooldown decrease to 1 tech ally and 1 other ally. So that is why Hero, being the only other tech ally on the team, can be so imperative and so advantageous, because Hero's always going to be getting that cooldown decrease, allowing him to get more evades, more upgrades. It just starts stacking and getting out of control. If all of this wasn't enough, just for Scrooge existing in this lineup, it's going to give Gizmo Duck a 2-turn taunt, which is so underrated and underappreciated. 2-turn taunts are ridiculous. They can hold out the battle for so much longer and allow Gizmo to start stacking up in Scrooge, stacking up that ticking time money bomb. Also, whenever Scrooge uses the money dive, he's going to gain 1 more helpful effect from Gizmo just being there as well. So they've got this beautiful synergy that works together, and it's actually why I like Scrooge not being tech, because it works out so well with Gizmo's kit. So some amazing meta teams you could run with this is if you have Bubbles and Elsa. These 3 plus Bubbles and Elsa is an instant meta team. Also, if you have these 3, you can plug in the Frosty Ducks, the Frozen Ducks, whatever you want to say about it. Anna and Elsa combined with these 3 have an absolute unit of a team, a meta team that is going to be hard to take down for most of your opponents. Hero is here for the constant evades, the constant upgrades, and everything else he does well. I think you guys know by now, Hero works well with any team, but with these 2 in particular, it's just out of control. Okay, next up, let's talk about the trio that you guys probably most expected to hear about on this video, and that is going to be Kristoff, Anna, and Elsa. Yes, Finn and Olaf are great, but they're not really what makes Frozen tick and do the amazing things that they can do. Now, one thing I want to just say right away, yes, Hero can jump in here, and the reason why it works and why that last trio we just talked about works so well is that both Anna and Gizmo Duck are going to lower Hero's cooldowns, thus allowing more evades and upgrades, and that is really what are making these meta teams currently. Again, for a lot of these duos and trios, I've got a full in-depth guide, so you guys can go back and check out the full Frozen in-depth guide if you want to know more about their synergy. But first, let's talk about the synergy with these 3. Now, first of all, Anna is going to be giving defense up to Kristoff with just her haste move in general. Also, when she uses an AoE, she's going to gain haste herself because Kristoff is just alive in there. With Anna's lead, he'll be giving Kristoff 60% turn meter. With these 3 being there for every single Frozen teammate, you get 20% more bonus turn meter to Kristoff to start the turn, getting that first turn taunt out very quickly and matching the Gizmo taunt pretty fast. Elsa and Anna also speak to each other. When Elsa goes below a certain threshold, she's going to be getting turn meter from Anna, and if Elsa hits her glacial armor, she's going to be giving Anna a loads of buffs. So all together, they just work and tick very well. If Anna and Kristoff are together, every single time he does the taunt, he'll get harmful immunity, which is the thing that most of us in the DSA community despise. And lastly, if Anna dies, Kristoff is going to get the full 100% turn meter, which I know a lot of people seem to skip that part of the kit. Make sure if you've got a couple people left and Anna's not going up for a while, skip Anna, don't give Kristoff that guaranteed turn, and focus on the others. Now, just like the last team we just talked about, this is all built around the big Elsa show yourself, or it's just trying to get Elsa to empowered as fast as possible. If you guys don't know, Elsa, when she's empowered, is just the best character in the game. She's got a try, silence, she's got the AoE that's ridiculous, her basic chains. This is going to be the trio you want to run if you like how Frozen interacts, both them and the ducks with Hero. So these last 2 trios that I talked about are probably the best 2 trios in the game. You can plug in any characters that you can think of, usually those best plug and plays, which again, we'll get to that later this week, but you can plug in so many different characters from your kits and have them work for the most part with these last 2 that we just mentioned. They're probably the best on this list, but there are some other very powerful and meta trios that I want to talk about so that you guys can go after what you choose and not just be stuck with these 2 dominant meta trios. All right, now let's talk about a trio I'm very excited about. You've got Papa Gantu, Captain Gantu, Cobra Bubbles, and Stitch. Now, real quick, before I start talking about this trio, yes, Gantu is going to fade out a bit more as we see T7 7-star Stitches out there, as they're going to be kept in check a lot more from Stitch. Gantu, unfortunately, counters a ton, which is going to give him a lot of charges to gain that offense up. However, that just makes Stitch hit him more and more. So Maui's probably going to slip into Gantu's spot here, but Gantu is still a very solid character. But keep in mind, Captain Gantu's got that mass tactic tactics, which we'll talk about, and he is a very good character. Just be careful on investing too much, as I want to see these 7-star Stitches more and more. Now let's talk about the synergy with these 3 Oceanics. Now, defense down is what thrives Oceanics, especially these 3 guys. Now, first of all, let's just talk about what they do. Gantu on his basic will be applying defense down. Because he counters so much, you'll be seeing lots of defense down. Why I like this is because if there is a harmful effect on an enemy every single time that Cobra does his basic, he's going to be lowering the cooldown on Call Me Next Time, which is his great tactics, attack up and speed up, which of course you want to have cooldown as much as possible. So you're going to be seeing more of that. On top of that, you've got Gantu's Mass AoE Slow that works very well with tactics. And of course, Galactic Armada. Galactic Armada is going to do more damage to the defense down characters on the field, about 10% more. Also, he's going to give tactics to the other Oceanic teammates, i.e. Bubbles and Lilo, and anyone else you run with them that is Oceanic. Great move there. Lastly, with his passive, he's going to have a 25% chance to counterattack when any of his allies are hit. But if they are Oceanic, he's going to have a 50% chance. So each time that these 2 cats are hit, you're going to be seeing the counterattacks start to stack up. Now let's talk about Bubbles for a quick second. He can obviously lower his cooldown for Call Me Next Time. Call Me Next Time is great for both Gantu and Stitch, as attack up and guaranteed tactics on both of them are going to be amazing. Tactics works so great with both characters. On Stitch, you're going to be applying stacks and stacks and stacks of defense down, and on Gantu you've got guaranteed slow, so either one you can't go wrong with. And also, of course, it'll be giving that extra turn meter, which helps speed up Gantu because he is a primary target. And let's say if the Stitch is on the other team, like we just talked about, you have a low health Gantu, you can power him up very quickly, get the slows out there, and start the train rolling. Also, when his fellow Lilo and Stitch teammates get hit, he's going to gain 10% turn meter. So of course, it's going to naturally work out so well because every AoE, he's getting mass amounts of turn meter. So you either have to choose to go after Bubbles or Gantu or Stitch because he's laying and building up that basic. It just adds a lot of headache for your opponent, and that's why I love them. Now, we just talked about Stitch's basic, which is absolutely crazy. But when you look at his Stop Touching Me, he's going to be gaining Evade if he has tactics, which is going to be coming from Gantu or Bubbles. And also, he gains bonus turn meter per Lilo and Stitch ally. Now, we only have these 3 for Lilo and Stitch, but if you imagine a full team and he just gets guaranteed a next turn, it's going to be ridiculous, as that move with critical damage at T7 I have seen hit up to 15k. Absolutely ridiculous. Lastly, with Stitch, let's talk about Blue Punch Buggy. For each and every defense down out on the field, which again, you've got Captain Gantu laying those out. If you have tactics on Stitch and building up that basic, you should have stacks. And I mean in the teens, 10, 11, and so on of defense down. They already have defense down on them. And then you're throwing a freaking car, and it's going to do ridiculous damage. I've seen 10k, 15k. So that is why I love these 3. You can put other Oceanics with them that make sense, like Moana and Maui. You can put Captain Jack Sparrow, Ariel. Any Oceanics work with these 3, as well as you can also put the 2 next characters that we're going to talk about with them, and it works very well. Let's jump over to the first duo of this episode. That's going to be Shanyu and Anna. Now, there's not a lot to say about this. Actually, it's pretty quick explanation here. This is a great duo, and a great duo for one reason. They don't have any synergy. None at all. Except one common thing. That's that they're both Kingdom characters, and Anna's ridiculous. Whenever I'm testing out new characters or new squads, which again, if you want to catch that, join me on Twitch at CozyGamer, 3 for an E. But I digress. Whenever I try them out, I do this mainly because Shanyu gives Anna that speed turn meter very quickly, which is going to get her to do that first ability, giving 30% turn meter to both of her adjacent allies right out the gate. You're also going to give 10% more turn meter per helpful effect on them. I would give you guys recommended teams to roll them with, but really just make sure you've got Anna in the adjacent spot of the 2 characters that you want to go a little bit quicker. You can literally put anyone in this slot. You can put other Kingdom characters, Frozen characters, Onward, you name it. They can fit in this team, mainly because it's about feeding and getting that speed turn meter advantage. Now let's ride a magic carpet over to Agrabah and look at the trio that is Jasmine, Aladdin, and Genie, guys. This is going to be your most free-to-play trio, and they've got synergy across the board. Not a ton of synergy as much as these other characters that you have seen. These other trios, though, they've been out long enough that you can start free-to-play farming them if you focus them. However, when you start the game, this is the trio that most of you guys will use, and we'll touch on the other Kingdom duo here in a hot minute. Now, Aladdin is going to synergize with Jasmine, calling her to assist and vice versa. They've got some other synergies in their kit. And if Aladdin is the one that dies and is the first one to die, Genie is going to be giving him all sorts of buffs, and they stack up very nicely. Now, the only thing I don't love about this is it has to be Aladdin, so your teammate, if they're somewhat wise with the game, they're not going to target Aladdin first if Genie's on a team, because they know that he's going to get all of those buffs. So it needs a lot of things to happen for it to happen correctly, but nonetheless, there is early synergy here, and if you put these three together very early on, you're going to be rocking with a solid trio for, some time until late game. And just an added bonus, if you run foul play with them, it's going to do so much more as it complements Aladdin characters. That's kind of in there with the trio. You definitely want to run that if you're running these guys. Also, lastly, Jasmine's going to have a little bit extra % chance to put the offense down with her basic attack per Aladdin teammate. So there is some synergy. This is not bad for a free-to-play team. Run it for a while. You won't regret it. So overall, you do have synergy with this team. It's going to be a nice core. Obviously, you want to throw Shanyu on there most likely, and that makes it a team of 4. But I wanted to talk about a free-to-play synergy that you guys can aim for very quickly in the early game. All right, we've got 3 more pairs to talk about. We're going to go through them a little bit quicker. Starting with the first one is Moana and Maui. Now, listen up. Moana is going to be getting instant turns anytime that Maui taunts. Whenever Moana starts her turn, she's going to be calling Maui to come and help and assist with that. Also, one other ally. And then lastly, if you're running a Maui lead, he's going to be giving shields at the start of the battle, which is going to synergize with Moana's crit defense, which essentially, if Moana has a shield, she cannot be critically hit. And anytime she does get critically hit, she does get a shield. So it all rolls together very nicely. There is some nice synergy with these two, as there should be. And you can plug and play them in a lot of different squads, and it's a lot of fun. I know a good amount of you do not have access to these two yet, but get excited because they're fun to plug in with different teams. Next up is the Onward duo / trio that we talk about a lot on this channel, but let's dive in a little bit deeper. Let me know down in the comments below. First of all, what is your favorite trio duo that we've talked about today and why? And should we do an Onward guide? Let me know. Love taking y'all's feedback. Let's hop on. Onward duo Ian and Barley are simply as good as a normal team. Ian and Barley are so well uniformed together. And let me tell you a story. I did Conquest this week and I took on a T6 full frozen team pretty much just with Ian and Barley. I used Ian and Barley, slapped a bunch of takes around them like Simba and some others, and I took out a T6 frozen team with a T7 hero. No sweat, because of the synergy that lies between them. So first with Ian, with his basic, he'll be having a chance to hit an adjacent opponent if Barley is there. And then obviously the thing we all know, if Barley is Ian's teammate, his second ability is going to be doing the massive AoE damage, which it's all about. It's all about building up to that. Now, once you use the second special, usually you like to build up to this with Barley. You can use his Quest of Yore that we've talked about on the beta video about how good that is. It's going to lower Ian's cooldowns, give him crit power up and a guaranteed crit, laying up for the massive boom for that third hit. Now, Manicore is nice to make this a trio. However, she is falling through the ranks, mainly because she couldn't help it, but she has charges in her kit, so Stitch is going to counter her very well. And the things she does and gets synergy from these two boys just doesn't make enough sense to run her in most teams. However, if you do have them all, which not a lot of people do, we haven't seen Manicore in quite some time, but if you do have them all, they do work as a trio, and I wanted to mention some of the things that she does. Now, for the last team we are going to talk about on today's video, yes, there are other groups of 3 characters that you can put together. These are the main duo and trios in DSA, but let's talk about a team not a lot of people have access to yet. That's Lotso, Chunk, and Zerg. Not Big Baby, but Zerg. Now, this is a great trio that helps run the fear teams that we've talked about. It helps run the downtown villains and the downtown Toy Story villains. However, the reason you only need these 3, and then you can add literally whoever on the sides, is because of how much they talk to each other through adjacent effects. Every single time that Lotso gets hit, he's going to be feeding turn meter to both Chunk and Zerg. He also takes the helpful effects, does loads of things for Club Conquest when used there. He's going to be giving, like we talked about in the last video, offense up, life drain. A very solid trio that I lightly wanted to talk about the next time they roll around, because Club Conquest is an important game mode within DSA, and these 3 can have a lot of fun when put with Soli and Randall or Madam Mim and Fear, and just trying to get a lot of fear spread upon the enemy. Zerg is the main ticket to this team. He is very slow and not falling out of the meta, but falling out of team comps as he can't really find people to synergize with. Well, look no further because Lotso is going to be the one that feeds him constant turn meter. Yes, you're going to have things like Intimidate now, which is going to affect that way more than when it was first released, but they are a very solid trio and I wanted to shout them out. In Cozy Club, there you go. We've gone through the best duos and trios in DSA. Yes, we could have talked about a lot more, but hopefully this will set you guys up to start creating some unique and different teams. Start with some of these core teams that we've talked about here on this graphic, and then fill with your roster what works with them. Whether you want to do Shanyu and Sorcerer Mickey and run them with Frozen so you get mass slows out there, or if you have Genie and Robin Hood, you can plug them in with any of these trios and it works out well. Now, obviously, the best possible teams right now are probably, like I said, the Frozen trio with the 2 Ducks and Hero. The 2 Ducks and Hero, you can plug in so many different characters, and it's going to help Scrooge as his only synergy reliance is those helpful effects. So that's going to be my top pick for this video. Guys, thank you so much for coming by, hanging out the Cozy Club. Remember, it's going to be a content-filled week for you guys as I expect a lot of content in DSA. Excited to hang out with you guys. Thanks for coming by, and until next time, stay cozy, my friends.